Okay, hey guys. So hopefully you can hear me okay. We're going to be looking at the transcripts for Grace Jabbari's cross-examination. It's going to be starting in the middle of the day. We left off in part 5, finishing up on direct testimony, and we're going to see what Priya Chaudhry asks Grace Jabbari. If you haven't seen the other transcripts, I do recommend starting with that. Unless you're watching this live, hang out with us for now. But if you get to see what Grace Jabbari says on direct testimony, you'll understand a lot more about why Priya Chaudhry is asking certain questions and the way she's going to ask them. This is mostly a blind read for me, even though I am aware of, bits and pieces of the transcript from looking at all the different court reporting from the day that it was happening in court. And I'm also using StreamYard now, so I didn't really like their audio settings as much, and I'm traveling, so I'm using a laptop. I don't really have my audio interface to play with it manually, so that's a negative. It's a con for StreamYard, but I do like that I can do this and pull up comments. So Ernest is saying, please highlight the ICE issue if possible. I'm very suspicious of the issue. So am I. So on part 5 of these transcript readings, we were going through it, and there's a part where Grace Jabbari says, they're like, did your finger pain change at all after 12:40 a.m. on March 25th? And she's like, yeah, and she goes into detail about how it started to get red and started to swell, and she says that she should have iced it, but I don't know, she says. And the thing about that is she testified that she iced it at the club. Then the jury also asked, so I'm assuming it was kind of important to them during deliberations to revisit the line of testimony where Chloe Zoller says, hey, Grace Jabbari said her finger hurt, and I grabbed her a piece of ice while we were sitting on the couch, and I held it to her finger. Now, that seems really important because that proves that her finger hurt at this point in time, right? So at the club. She had to have had an injured finger if she's asking for a piece of ice for her finger at that time. Now, the issue there is then you have Grace saying I should have iced it after testifying that she did ice it. You also have Chloe Zoller saying that she had met with the prosecution in April, and then again a week before she testified. So she was drunk when she came out of that building. Chloe Zoller testified, that was her words. She called herself intoxicated. She didn't remember seeing Grace Jabbari walk into a wall, anything like that, until she was shown the video. She didn't remember smoking hookah. She didn't remember smoking in the club and being around Jabari, smoking a cigarette in the club. There's all these different things that she didn't remember. So after the prosecution asks Chloe about this piece of ice, and there was also a line, it was something to the effect, I put the link that covers my breakdown on Chloe Zoller's testimony as it was told by court reporters in the description if you want to check that out. But there's a question where they ask her, did you overhear Grace Jabbari, what if anything was she doing when she saw Jonathan Majors speaking on the phone on the sidewalk? And she says that she may have used the word screaming to describe what Grace Jabbari was doing previously. That's important because it shows that Chloe Zoller was thinking back to the statements and things that she may have said in her April statement when she was speaking with the prosecution. If the prosecution asked her in April, hey, do you remember anything about ice that night? She could have had this association with the idea of ice and Grace Jabbari that by the time we roll around to December and she's testifying on the stand and they ask her, what, if anything, do you remember about ice? She goes, I think I do remember she asked for some ice. Then Seth Zuckerman gets up on cross-examination, asks her a bunch of questions. She's like, what finger did you hold it to? What hand was hurt? She's like, I don't know. I don't recall. I don't know. I don't recall. And then he asks, did Grace Jabbari complain about any pain? She says, no. That's for the whole night. And the reason that's important is because initially Chloe said, yeah, she said her finger hurt, so I grabbed a piece of ice and held it to her finger. But then she testifies that Grace Jabbari never complained about anything hurting. So, possible unreliable witness, possible associative memory with a question she was asked back in April. who knows? But with that being said, I hope that gives a good rundown on the ICE issue. The Chloe video is in the description. I did not obtain transcripts for Chloe's testimony. I think this same court transcriber transcribed that day of testimony, so it'd be quicker to correspond with her to grab them. It would just be the cost of $4.30 per page. So if you guys want to do that, we can talk about that. But let's jump into the cross-examination. So this is in the middle of the day. This is the second day of Grace Jabbari being on the stand, and they just had like a break. Jabari comes back in, and then the judge says to her, "Miss Jabari, you are now going to be asked questions by Miss Chaudhry. If you at any time need a break, just let me know." Oops, let me get that off the screen. She says, "Okay, yes, thank you. You're welcome." Chaudhry says, "May I inquire?" "Yes." So cross-examination starts. "Miss Jabari, you and I have never met, correct?" "Correct." "And you don't know what I'm about to ask you. Is that correct?" "That's correct." "But you've met with the district attorneys in this case several times, right?" "Correct." "And how many times have you met with them?" "Including about 3 or 4 times in person, and then like 2 or 3 times on Zoom, as I was in the UK." "And how long were those sessions?" "Varied. Some were short, some were like an hour, so." "When was the last time you met with the district attorney's office before you took the stand?" "I think 2 days before, the day after I arrived in New York, so on the weekend, Saturday." And then, "Hey, sheep." See, I gotta use this now, I can use this little comment feature. "When you met with the district attorneys, they went over what questions they were going to ask you on the stand, correct?" "Not exactly, but some, I guess." "Well, they were preparing you for testimony, right?" "Correct." "And they were preparing you for the answers you would give, correct?" "No." "Mr. Perez, objection. Court overrules it. That answer can stand." She said no. I wonder why Mr. Perez objected to that. So Jabari repeats no. So Perez doesn't think it's a good thing that she said no. And then Jabari says no again. "By Miss Chaudhry, they went over evidence in this case with you, correct?" "They showed me what they were going to be using as evidence, yes." So remember I said there are certain things that she seems to have seen and tried to walk back from, like, the buttons in the elevator. And to be fair, with the buttons in the elevator, her shirt when she got in the elevator was like underneath, that part of your rib. I'm not like low enough on camera, but that part of your rib cage where it starts to V out. It like opens up. You can like push more into the flesh of your stomach area. Her shirt was like unbuttoned down to there. And I guess she does do it up like a little bit more, but she initially buttons it up a lot and then undoes it, and it's still, her chest is all out the whole rest of the night. But it seems like she might have seen just that little teeny snippet before they put the compilation of all of the long footage together, saw her scurrying with the one button, and was like, "Oh, I can turn around that anger when he was upset about me telling Priya S., his manager, all of his private business. I can turn this around because there's a video footage of me adjusting my button in an elevator. I can say that that's why he was mad, was because of my buttons." So she's seen all the evidence before. She went over the evidence that would be shown with the prosecution. And then she's saying that they didn't prep her for any Q&A that she would be asked by them, which is a weird thing for her to say no to because prepping a witness is a normal thing to do. But she's adamant that nope, I'm not prepped for whatever reason. And the questions they were going to ask you about those things they were going to use as evidence, right? To some extent. So now she's admitting, yeah, a little bit. It's not no anymore. Yeah, I call BS on that too. Absolutely. You discussed what your answers were going to be in response to the evidence they were going to put in, correct? Not correct, no. So she just said to some extent. She says no, then to some extent, then not correct, no. She's not sure what to say here. And I think Perez objecting to it confused her more. So, you didn't tell them during your trial prep sessions what your answers were going to be? Galloway says objection, asked and answered, overruled. They were not telling me what to say. I think that's what I took from your question. They let me speak freely about what the truth was in response to the questions they were asking. I have to refresh my memory. It's a long time ago. Hold on. You just gave a committed answer. You didn't put any likes. Do you see any likes or kind ofs in this language here? If you followed along for any of her longer answers before, she always has this like, but now she sounds like she's angry. And I think Danny described this, where she was very pointed with her words back to Chaudhry. They were not telling me what to say. I think that's what I took from your question. They let me speak freely about what the truth was in response to the questions they were asking. Then she says I have to refresh my memory. It's a long time ago. But you just gave a certain answer. And then you say you need to refresh your memory because it was a long time ago. So, weird shift in that one paragraph. What's a long time ago? March and the relationship. Okay. Miss Jabari, you did tell them that your answers were going to be in response to certain pieces of evidence, correct? I answered the questions when they would ask me them, correct. So that's a yes. To what I just said, I would answer the questions. I didn't tell them exactly what I was going to say. I just answered freely. Chaudhry says, I just want to be clear. The answer to the question I asked you is yes, correct? Galloway says objection, asked and answered, and it's sustained. In preparing you for your testimony, the district attorney showed you the videos that were shown to the jury, correct? Correct. And part of their preparation for your testimony was discussing with you what you were going to say about those videos, correct? Please, may you say that again? And then Chaudhry says yes. Can I have the question read back? So the court reporter reads back. And part of their preparation for your testimony was discussing with you what you were going to say about those videos, correct? And then she says, not correct, no. You did not tell the district attorney what you were going to say when you were shown these videos? Yeah, I'm confused a little bit with your wording. And then the judge agrees. Just the wording is confusing, to be quite frank with you. If you could just... She's not being non-responsive. I don't think she's understanding your question. You could ask it in a different way. They showed you these videos in preparation, correct? I had seen the videos, I think, once before. Is the answer to my question yes? May you repeat it? So then they read it back. They showed you these videos in preparation, correct? Yeah, I think that's correct. Miss Jabari, I'm asking you yes or no questions, so if you could answer with a yes or no, I would appreciate that. I'll try my best. They did tell you were going to be cross-examined, correct? Yes, correct. And they did explain how cross-examination works, correct? Yeah, to the best of their ability, yes. I mean, I know some of us have poked fun at like Galloway being new, but is she saying that? Why are you qualifying that the ADAs can only explain cross-examination to you to the best of their ability? Are they not fully capable of explaining it to you? Like, she always has to add something to her answers. Yes, and did they tell you not to answer yes or no? No. So it's your choice not to answer yes or no. Objection, argumentative, sustained. Did they suggest to you that you could explain your answers in cross-examination? No, they didn't. They just told me to answer. So the answer to that question was no? Yes. And I'm so confused. When they showed you the videos, you told them, yeah, that's how you sounded when you were caught up with the officer showing up too. When they showed you the videos, you told them what you were going to say about those videos, correct? Asked and answered. We went through this. That's not what she has answered. Also, Judge, as to form, I don't know what videos. Sustained. The video compilation. Just ask the question again in a different way. Yes. So, Chaudhry, when these district attorneys showed you, sorry, assistant district attorneys showed you the video compilation that was shown in court, you told them what your answers would be about the compilation, correct? I'm finding it hard. The question is just too general by, she's struggling here. Yeah, but you know, she's, you said a Valley girl, but she's holding back a lot of the likes and the kind ofs and like extremely likes and whatever all those words she was throwing in on her longer answers. I'm sure they'll come out once she gets to speaking paragraphs again, but Chaudhry right now is keeping it punctual. And yeah, that's a good poll, isn't it? Yeah, and a lot of nothing. The answers you told this jury during your testimony you had previously gone over with the district attorneys, correct? Not word for word, I just answer each time. And then the judge starts to say, the problem is the objection is sustained. The problem is you're asking her, did they go over each and every single question? How could they do that? Just focus the question a bit differently. So Chaudhry says, Ms. Jabari, you're aware that not all of the surveillance videos in this case were played during your testimony, correct? Gallery says, objection, lack of personal knowledge. The court, we'll find out. Jabari says, I'm not sure. I don't know. Well, we know she didn't watch the margarita video. You know there's videos of you dancing at Lucy's, correct? Yes. Correct. You know those were not played, correct? Correct. In your preparation to testify, you said a minute ago that they, the district attorneys, discussed with you cross-examination, correct? Correct. Did they discuss with you potential topics you might be asked about? Yes. That was part of your meetings with the assistant district attorneys to prepare for trial, correct? It was true of one meeting, yeah. So they only discussed with you potential topics on one meeting. Okay, I guess that was only true of one meeting. Now, Ms. Jabari, you testified that you and Mr. Majors were in a relationship, correct? Correct. And that it was an intimate relationship, correct? Correct. And it began in August of 2021, correct? Correct. And you shared a lot about yourselves with each other, correct? Correct. She's really keeping her to these one-word answers. You met each other's families, is that right? Yes. You spent holidays with each other's families, is that correct? Yes. And you wanted to marry him, is that right? Yes. And you wanted to have children with Mr. Majors, is that right? Yes. You knew about Mr. Majors' background because of your relationship with him. Objection as to background, Judge. The judge asks if Chaudhry could be a little more specific. The things Mr. Majors shared about himself with you included some of his upbringing, correct? Correct. And in that, you learned that Mr. Majors was born in California, correct? Correct. And you, in fact, lived with Mr. Majors at least twice, correct? I didn't actually hear the first bit of the question. Sorry, I'm trying not to shout because I'm right over Mr. Perez. Mr. Jabari, you have lived with Miss... because I think the way that they were... I don't know. Why would they... She must be stuck talking right in between the two benches where they both sit. Mr. Jabari... Oh, maybe because the prosecution's desk is going to be in front of Jabari, and Chaudhry is, like, probably right in between them to be right near Jabari. So she's trying not to shout because Mr. Perez is, like, right within earshot. Mr. Jabari, you have lived with Mr. Majors at least twice. See that wording there? You have lived with Mr. Majors at least twice, correct? Correct. Once in London, you told us. Yes. And once in New York, right? Yes. And you and Mr. Majors also, aside from living together, spent a lot of time together, right? Yes. And you also exchanged a lot of photos with each other, right? Yes. And one of the reasons for that is because you were often separated, right? Yes. So you've seen a lot of photos of Mr. Majors, right? Yes. And in fact, you yourself had what you called a folder of photos of Mr. Majors, right? I'm unsure about that. You had an album that you kept of photos of Mr. Majors that you would look at when he was traveling and you weren't together. Is that correct? Maybe some albums, yeah. You are familiar with what Mr. Majors looks like, right? Yes. And you are familiar with what Mr. Majors was wearing on the evening of March 24th going into 25th, right? Yes. You spent the evening with Mr. Majors, right? Yes. Hold on. She's unsure. But then she knows it was, like, more than one folder. After not even knowing if there was one folder, she suddenly knows that there's more than one folder. So, you know. But yeah, she's always confused about things that could make her look... Like, I think that line of questioning could either make it look like she was keeping tabs to use later against him, or it's to prove, hey, you liked and were endeared to this person so much that even when he was away from you, you still... There's no reason that you can say all you wanted was to get away from him if you exhibit behaviors that show you don't want to get away from him. So there could be two angles there. Not exactly sure, but just my own guesses. And then you spent the evening. We're going into March 24th. I'm showing you what has been entered subject to connection, so it cannot be published to the jury yet, officer, and is marked as Defense Exhibit 100A. Mr. Jabari, you'll just hold that photo like this, okay? So it faces you. Okay, yes. Defense Exhibit 100A being shown to the witness. Have you had a chance to look at that? Yes. Do you know who that's a photo of? Of Jonathan. Your Honor, at this time we offer Defense Exhibit 100A into evidence. Objection, Judge. Court sustains it. Oh, they were trying to... It's the bloody beard. It's of his side of his face. It's not of the whole of his face. It's what's marked as Defense Exhibit 100A is what Mr. Major's wearing, and is consistent with what he was wearing on the night of March 24th into 25th. I believe so, but I wouldn't want to say 100% because, yeah, it wasn't my clothes to know any. Sorry. Here come the yeahs. Can I have the answer read back? So the reporter reads, I believe so, but I wouldn't want to say 100% because, yeah, it wasn't my clothes to know any. Sorry. So your answer is that you, just to make sure I understand, that you believe this is what Mr. Majors was wearing that evening. I believe so, but I don't know, like 100%, you know? Could be different. Feels like it was the same. Your Honor, I once again offer Defense Exhibit 100A into evidence. Oh, so Jabari's trying to resist laying foundation for the picture of the scratch on his face. Perez objects. On what grounds? Sure, I could voir dire a little bit if you'd like. Sure. Mr. Jabari, looking at... Well, that was Defense Exhibit 100A. Do you know when that photo was taken? No. Do you know who took that photo? No. Judge, I object to the relevance. They have to establish when the photo was taken. The court says, the more important question, do you recognize this photo, and is that a fair and accurate representation of the way he appeared on, what was the date? March 24th? March 24th and 25th. March 24th into 25th? And then Jabari says, no. So Chaudhry asks, what part of this is inaccurate as to how? And then Perez objects, it's sustained, it's not in evidence, so it's done. Mr. Jabari, on the night of March 24th into 25th. Now, that's important because we know that it's just a picture of the side of his face. That's the picture where he's cut up. That's why it wasn't able to come in, because she said she didn't recognize him. She didn't know when it was taken. She didn't know what it was. Even though she's also seen stuff online that was leaked about this case. She knew. She knew not to let that foundation be laid. She knew. So I've seen people speculate that those photos weren't able to come in. And the judge could have used a little bit more discretion here because there was some foundation. She did identify that it was Jonathan. But he said, oh, you can't identify the date for sure? Yeah, I'll sustain the objection. So there was discretionary room that the judge could have let that in, but he chose not to because Jabari was like, no, I don't recognize that. I don't know. Because she knew. I mean, her family is a family of attorneys. She met with the district attorneys, the assistant district attorneys. But I've seen speculation that the reason that picture couldn't come in is because Jonathan Majors didn't make an affirmative self-defense argument, so it wouldn't have been relevant. But that's not the reason it was sustained. It was sustained because Grace Jabbari said, I don't know what that is. Sorry. I don't know his clothes. I don't know when that was taken. I don't know. No. Is that grounds for an appeal in itself? I mean, I think it might not be a very strong one because they aren't also making a self-defense argument, if that makes sense. If the theory of the case, if it was an affirmative self-defense, not letting this in would be a lot more prejudicial. So whether or not something like this could have affected the outcome, they might not. But I guarantee you they're going to do a kitchen sink type appeal because if they get a judge that's just like Galloway, because the appeal has to like work its way up. The first appeal is probably going to kind of barely look at it, honestly, especially in this Manhattan district. They're probably going to throw a kitchen sink at it and see if any of it sticks. If it doesn't, maybe they'll try to appeal it again. And if this is anybody but somebody with money and the passion to try to clear their name, you know, it's a long and lengthy process to keep going through the appeals. They're like months apart before anything can move forward. And the first try at it might be a dud, might be a total dud. So I'm sure something like this will be in the appeal. It might not be the thing that anyone even looks twice at. Just because it's not. If he was making a self-defense argument and then pictures of his face being cut up, if the judge really used discretion to keep them out, that would be probably way more prejudicial in that case. But who knows? Okay, so she takes the photo back. It's not coming into evidence. Ms. Jabari, on the night of March 24th into 25th, Mr. Majors did have a light beard on his face, correct? I believe so, yes. Ms. Jabari, as part of getting to know Mr. Majors, you also learned that he received a master's from the Yale School of Drama. I think you're right, because look. Unless there's an immediate question here that comes up about this beard, she's asking that question because she's going to fight this. So Chaudhry's asking, you saw the side of his face and you know he has a light beard just like that on his face. I believe so, yes. The foundation should have been laid. That's actually really quick of Chaudhry to catch and do. So, Mr. Jabari, as part of getting to know Mr. Majors, you also learned that he received a master's from the Yale School of Drama, correct? I wasn't aware it was a master, but I know he went to the Yale School of Drama, yes. In meeting with each other's families in November of 2022, you went to Texas for Thanksgiving to meet Mr. Majors' mother, correct? So this is after the Coretta Scott King recording. This is November 2022. They had broken up, apparently, in October 2022. Not according to her testimony, but the breakup might have happened in September, but it was reported, it was tweeted by a reporter he interviewed with in October 2022. But November, she's coming to Texas for holiday dinner to come meet mom. Correct. And that is his mother. And that his mother is the one who raised him, correct? So you learn that he grew up in Texas, that his mother's the one who raised him. And you learn that she raised him, and Mr. Perez said, objection, alone, correct? The question got out. The objection sustained. The court's like, learn from who? It's hearsay. Your Honor, everyone's background as you get to know them at some point is hearsay. And then they object on relevance, move on. And that's interesting because we heard all that stuff on background that was able to come in as, like, move on, go ahead. You knew that Mr. Majors is Christian, correct? Objection, same grounds, sustained. You prayed with Mr. Majors, right? Objection, overruled. Yeah, he would pray before eating, and I would join him. And you know that Mr. Majors travels with the Bible, correct? Objection as to relevance, that's sustained. You prayed with his whole family at Thanksgiving, correct? Yes, before our meal. Mr. Jabari, you're aware that Mr. Majors went to Sundance Film Festival in 2022 for his film magazine Dreams, correct? Correct. And, in fact, you wanted to go with him to that festival, correct? That was the plan, yeah. And you're aware that Mr. Majors presented at the Oscars this year in February, correct? Objection again as to relevance. The court says, I'll allow an answer. Are you aware? Yes. And you watched that, correct? Yes. And you met, as you stated, while Mr. Majors was filming Ant-Man, correct? Right? Yes. I was working on it as well, yes. And during your relationship, Mr. Majors was also promoting his film Creed 3. Yeah. During our relationship, he shot and then promoted Creed 3, yes. And in the summer of 2022, when you lived with Mr. Majors in London, Mr. Majors was filming Loki, correct? Correct. And in that, he would send you photos of himself dressed in the various costumes of Kang, correct? Correct, yes. And you told this jury that your relationship with Mr. Majors was 2 years, correct? And she does correct it here, but that part made me laugh. I believe I said, well, I was asked how long we had been together at some point, and I said in August of that year would have been 2 years. I didn't do the math exactly. Almost 2 years. No, you added 5 months to say that. End of 2022 is when it began, correct? Correct, yes. And the relationship ended at the end of March of 2023, correct? Correct. Chaudhry says, Your Honor, can I break before I start my next chapter? The court's like, we have time, keep going. Chaudhry says, are we breaking at 12:30? No, you could. We will go until about, is everybody okay? The jurors are like, yep. See, you're riveting. We'll go to 10 to 1. Mr. Jabari, on direct, we heard a recording that you had made of Mr. Majors in September 2022, correct? Correct, yes. And at that point, he had been your boyfriend of approximately 1 year, is that correct? Yes. And you surreptitiously recorded Mr. Majors, right? Objection, overruled. I'm going to have to ask what you just said means. Sorry. He didn't know you were recording him, right? Correct. And you never told him about that recording, did you? That's correct. I did not. And that's interesting because normally if someone's recording something because they want someone to understand the way they get, they show that person to show them the way they get. Hey, look, not trying to invade your privacy, and we can delete this, but like when you go out and, I don't know, this is just an example, it has nothing to do with the two of them. When you go out and you drink too much, you come home, you do XYZ, who knows, whatever the example is, and like, you didn't believe me, but here, like, look, like, just so you know, if you do something because someone's not aware of the way that they get, if you record it because someone's not aware of the way that they get, you would show them. So you record someone without them knowing, but then you don't actually like show them or confront them about any of that. Why not? Why are you recording it and also still choosing to stay with them? You have a problem with it, but you're not recording it to address the problem. You're recording it, and months later, you're moving into his penthouse apartment across the world. Make it make sense. So, let's see. So never told him about the recording. At the time, Mr. Majors in September of 22 was a well-known actor, right? Yes. We just discussed that. Well, at the time that you made that recording, you were living in a house with Mr. Majors in London, correct? Yes. And you testified on direct that during that period, Mr. Majors was very busy, right? Yes. That he was filming for Loki season 1, right? Or 2, perhaps. I think he was filming season 2. And he was doing reshoots for Ant-Man in that same period, right? That's correct. And he was also working on a Johnny Walker campaign in that period, right? I wouldn't be able to recall the exact date of the Ant-Man. We went somewhere else when that was being filmed. That wasn't in London. Mr. Majors was also, in that period, working on a film called Man in My Basement, right? No, he hadn't started working on that yet. That recording you took is Mr. Majors being upset about your drinking, correct? Amongst other things, I believe. You decided during that conversation when to begin recording, right? Yes, that's right. And you also decided when to end the recording, right? Yes, that's right. And you also have the ability to edit a recording, right? I do have that ability, yes. Mr. Jabari, both of your parents are lawyers, right? Correct. And your sister's also a lawyer, right? That's correct. Your parents have complained about your drinking, haven't they? Objection, sustained. Drinking has been a constant source of tension in your relationship with Mr. Majors, right? No. It was a source of tension, right? Asked and answered. No, she said constant. Now she says it was a source. Go ahead. No, not to my understanding. Yeah, because you've never understood. So I think up here she kind of concedes because Chaudhry opened up her cross-examination by saying, hey, you know that you didn't see all the evidence that we have, right? So tread carefully. So up here, she says, amongst other things, that recording you took is Mr. Majors being upset about your drinking, correct? She's like, amongst other things, I believe. Because she doesn't know. She doesn't know what else that they could pull up, like a text message or whatever. And then down here, she's like, no, it's not a source of tension, not to my understanding. Like, come on. But let's see. Swear to God, the drinking game that's going to come out of you reading these transcripts. Hey, there's not that many likes or kind ofs in this one. So it might be something, a drinking game you could play and not die. It might be a drinking game you could play and not end up sleeping on the warm bathroom floor. Alcohol poisoning just from the likes in the first transcript. Exactly. You just being sneaky, like, let's record this 2 years later. Exactly. You're not recording to, like, demonstrate to somebody that this is what happens. Like, hey, I really want you to see this for yourself, so seeing is believing. You're doing it for some other reason. I think it is so dangerous that he was around somebody with that type of character and did not recognize it. But, I think he recognized it, and I think relationships work like that. Like, once you're in, sometimes it's like quicksand. And then if you try to get out in the wrong way too fast, if you try to get out in a passionate moment, if you're like, this is too much, this is too crazy, you try to get out in a moment of passion, there's going to be that high and low, right? You kind of have to leave situations with a stable emotion and a stable head. Otherwise, you're going to go through that roller coaster emotion and it's going to become like a codependent kind of cycle. Um, I don't think he didn't. I don't think he didn't not recognize it. I think he was just kind of like, I hope Grace can get it together. Which sucks. It's got to suck in hindsight. But she's pretty clear about his work schedule. Yeah, remember that's just fine. Interesting. Yeah, I can't wait to get to the Sag Harbor testimony. That's one of my favorite little things that I heard about. And it was Victoria Bicyampis that had mentioned it because she was like, why is it important? Why, who cares if someone took a bottle of wine and ran to the beach after an argument? That's something that anyone would do. And it's kind of like, I'm not going to fault someone for drinking to unwind after a stressful moment, but when it's a pattern, that's a problem. When that's your way of dealing with conflict, that's a problem. And when the conflict is someone telling you, hey, Grace, you shouldn't plan your whole schedule around mine. You're supposed to have your career. And like, just because I have to go do XYZ, you can't just drop everything you're doing to be up under me all day. Like, you can't do that. And she didn't want to hear that, so she grabs a bottle and she goes to the beach while they're staying at a house in Sag Harbor. She drinks the bottle. She's upset. She doesn't want to be there anymore. She tries to get behind the wheel of a car and drive. Like, come on. Like, you could put anyone's life in danger by doing that, not just your own. It's sad, but we'll get into that. That's going to come up on Direct, the Sag Harbor incident. So I'm talking about something that, it was really briefly mentioned in any of the reporting. It wasn't anything that's that discussed because it obviously doesn't look good for her. But we're going to get to that. So if you're confused on why I'm talking about Sag Harbor, it's coming up in Cross. I haven't read the transcript about it, but I just know that little snippet. It's sad that New York doesn't have two-party consent. I don't think it was filmed. The recording was in New York. I think it was in London. So as far as when that Carter Scott King audio recording was made, that I think people were talking about that where they were, like London, it would be like two-party consent. I wonder how many drinks she can take before she's higher than tipsy. I mean, according to her, if she ate a lot, she will never get past tipsy all night. Smart me would have flown to California and sold my Pinterest, and she'll find out. She'll find out when she gets off of the floor. Oh, and by the way, I think that was Penthouse. I read it without needing to correct it in my head, but saying it out loud for anyone listening. But yeah, smart me would have moved down to California, sold my penthouse, and she'll find out when she wakes up. It's the way you got to do it. Yeah, no, this is crazy. I think this is crazy to a lot of us. Dating while black is a scary thing. Hey, and that's still the DWB acronym that works. She had no life and no job. And that's crazy because she really picked up the work. She got work from Holly Blakey as soon as this all ended too. Like there was a gap in her work and then the breakup's final. It's over. And she's like, "Hey Holly, my friend Holly that I didn't talk to until this happened. I need some work." And then just Grace Jabbari. She knew her drinking was a problem for sure when she drank down that margarita. And we're gonna get to that. I think this is coming up soon in the next few bits of this testimony. So it's an all-party consent in London. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I'm sure Chaudhry like knew that when she was asking that question. But it's something that, the juries would just have to have an earworm for if they would even care. Um, the jury might just be like, what does it matter if she recorded him? But still, do you think she recorded him more? I mean, that recording right there was supposed to be longer than what we heard. Because I think on direct, she testified that, there's stuff before and after it, but this part is unedited. So it came out that it was longer because she was saying, like, hey, this isn't like all of it. It's edited in the sense that it's trimmed, it's split at a start point and a stop point. But the content within those stop and goes is not touched, it's not altered. So even that was recorded longer than we're able to hear. But she probably recorded him more. And then let's see. And what is wrong to pretend you're ODing while texting your girlfriend and your boyfriend is freaking outside the bathroom? Exactly, because he's pounding. And if he's such a big, scary, loud man, if you say you're physically scared of his voice, your body gets scared because of the way he shouts. And you heard him trip, according to you, you heard him trip over a suitcase that was still sitting on the table you left it on open and never closed, even though he tripped over it. Still sitting propped open when the police come with their body cam. You hear that. You tell your friend you hear that. So either you hear it or you don't. That was a lie. Or you're able to hear that, but you don't hear him banging on the bedroom door, which is 2 stories closer to where you are. Doesn't make sense. Me acting out Jabari, I always blur myself. Like, my camera always tries to focus on my Jabari motions. Okay, so where are we? Okay, so we're talking about the constant source of tension with the drinking, and she's like, no, it's not a source of tension. It's not a constant source. It's not a tension source of tension at all. To your understanding, Mr. Majors was not unhappy with your drinking in your... To your understanding, Mr. Majors was not unhappy with your drinking in your relationship? Objection as to form. Yeah, that was a little confusing. Do you understand the question? I can answer, but I don't know if I... Why don't you rephrase it? So, and you and Mr. Majors had more than... Oh, let me move this so you guys can read. And you and Mr. Majors had more than just that argument about your drinking, right? The one we heard on the recording? It wasn't really an argument. He would get upset with me and use drinking as an excuse for that, I believe. I actually think she's honest here. I think she really does believe that. That he would just, her drinking wasn't really an issue. He would just use it as a cover to be mad about something else. I think she truly believes that. I personally think it's bullshit, but I think she might really believe that. But Mr. Majors would tell you he was upset with you for your drinking, right? Again, this line, amongst other things, yes. It's never just a yes. In fact, a week before... Yes, the Sag Harbor! So, in fact, a week before March 24th, around March 18th, 2023... Oh my god, this is the same week! This is the same week! She drinks the whole bottle of wine the week before this happens. So a week before March 24th, around March 18th, 2023, you went to Sag Harbor with Mr. Majors, right? That's correct, yes. And Sag Harbor is on... Oh, Chaudhry said guys. She's picking up on... She's mirror matching Jabari's language. And Sag Harbor is on, Long Island, right? I believe you, yes. It's outside of Manhattan, correct? Yes. You drove there with Mr. Majors, right? He drove, and I sat in the passenger seat. He drove a rental car that he rented, right? Yes. And you had an argument with Mr. Majors at Sag Harbor, is that right? I find the word argument difficult. Well... You and Mr. Majors, well, it's fine because when you're coming up with the arguments, you were calling them arguments. But when the argument is obviously going to be used against you and the way you acted, oh, I find the word argument difficult. Well, you and Mr. Majors had a discussion that caused you to leave and go to the beach with a bottle of wine, right? Yes. And the reason, the discussion you had, is that you had asked Mr. Majors about his schedule, right? Yes. And Mr. Majors said he wanted you to not plan. Mr. Perez, objection, plan your life around his schedule, but he wanted you to work. So I don't know if Chaudhry is speeding that question out, but it's interrupted in the middle of it. But the question is, Mr. Majors said he wanted you not to plan your life around his schedule, but he wanted you to work. The court, you said and. It's going to be a compound question. Ask the question, single question, and then you'll object. Go ahead. And Mr. Major's response to you asking about his schedule is that you should not plan your life around his schedule, correct? Hearsay, I'll allow that because of the questions that were raised on direct. Nice. Thank you, Judge. I don't know the exact conversation we're talking about. You texted your friend Holly about this argument, right? Yes. Okay. So she texted Holly. She did actually text Holly on, what day? March 18th, 16th? 18th. Okay. March 18th, she actually texts Holly. So you text your friend Holly about this argument, right? Yes. So she's telling her friends about things before she breaks down and says, I finally have to tell somebody on March 25th because I'm finally free. She's texting Holly this. Yes. Would it refresh your collection to see those texts? Yes, please. Your Honor, I'm handing both of you Ms. Jabari and the people's what's been marked for identification only as Defense Exhibit 400. All right, which page do you want Ms. Jabari to look at? The first one is probably, she could review the whole thing. She could let me know. And then we get this instruction that I don't remember seeing any other time so far. Maybe I just slipped over it because sometimes I speed through the judge's instructions. But he says, do me a favor, take a look at this document, read it, put it down. If it refreshes your collection, say it does. If it doesn't, then you'll tell us it doesn't. Okay, it does refresh my memory, yes. It does, okay. Ask your question. So Chaudhry gets up and says, yes, Your Honor. She's asking whether she could keep it. Just leave it there, just in case you need it again. Don't look at it, just leave it there. Having reviewed what you marked as Defense Exhibit 400, does that refresh your recollection? Yes. Yes, so on March 18th, when you were at Sag Harbor with Mr. Majors, you had an argument about his scheduling, correct? No. You asked him for the dates he would be filming in Wales, correct? Yes. Mr. Majors said to you he doesn't know why you would need to know, and you should not plan your life around him, right? Yes. And that you need to work in New York, correct? Yeah. You left this conversation with a bottle of wine and went to the beach, right? So she's not getting her visa. She's not trying to get her visa. That's what that is. So he's pressing her on it, like, you need to work in New York. Because it's not just him saying you need to work. It's specifically, you need to work in New York. And there's a barrier there because she needs to get her work visa. That's why she said she wasn't able to work. She was hinging on that as an excuse to not be working. And Jonathan is telling her, you need to work in New York, aka get your damn visa, girl. But let's see. Before we get into where this goes, she had no real friends. She had single-serving friends, people she met during her nights out. She may even exchange numbers but never reach out. I think real friends would have checked her drinking. And then she had like friends like Holly, who Holly ends up coming in and say like, well, I don't really drink, so she had a different group of friends from me. Holly's like her work connection buddy, you know what I mean? And like, some people are just like that. It's not weird to have different friends that do different things, right? But it's weird when you yourself compartmentalize your friends by the use case, the specific use case for each friend or friend group. Like, just because if you have your karaoke friends and then you have your concert friends, they could be different groups, but you're not categorizing them in a selfish way. You're categorizing them in a way that makes sense. Everybody has a good time together. But yeah, Jabari, her friends were very A to Z. She wouldn't believe she's an alcoholic exactly. And that's like a normal thing when someone is an alcoholic or getting to that point. I think she alienated close friends. She stole his stuff too easily. Doubt she only did this to him. She said they argued about drinking, among other things. I really wish Priya had asked what were the other things. Maybe. But at the same time, that could open the door for her to start saying, like, he was controlling and he was manipulative. Like, it would have been a Jabari answer. It wouldn't have been a truthful answer. It would have been a Jabari's perception answer. Love Priya C insisting on yes and no answers. Sounds like he wanted her to work. Like, how many times are we going to hear people have these hot takes about what the Curtis Scott King reference means when The whole time, he has a career. He's trying to work. She's bringing her drunk friends home. She's in New York. She's supposed to get her visa. She's playing housewife that just calls in Grubhub, DoorDash. That's her housewife duties. The house still isn't decorated to their liking. She complains about it, but it's been her job as someone that's not working. And then he's telling her, like, hey, why do you care about when I'm going to Wales? You need to start working in New York and get your visa and start doing things with your life. And oh, boo-hoo, I'm going to grab a bottle of wine, call my friend Holly, and go to the beach, and then complain about Jonathan Majors to my friend Holly, who's also in the industry. So I'm going to complain to my friend that's in the industry because I'm so cautious about keeping everything private. So what is she doing all day? But I don't know. She wasn't in New York that long, right? So she said she came out to New York in like December or something, that they'd spent New Year's at the penthouse. And then she like brought her stuff over there and was there full time then. So, maybe like 3 months, maybe 5 tops, but 3 being conservative, who knows? But something like that. And by the time they go to this play on March 24th, she's like, I know this restaurant because I went with my friend, and they also have this other thing behind. It's a bar, it's open late. If we're too late to make it to the restaurant, we can just go back there. So, like, what's she doing all day? Well, she knows where to recommend that they go that has good drinks. That kind of to me, suggests what she's doing with her time. And then, yeah, if you wanted her to work, how is he isolating her? Especially if her line of work is, like, if you guys saw, and I don't care if someone, like, is a nudist for a living. Like, I really don't care. But when someone is saying that their partner's controlling, but the partner's actually telling them to go work, and their line of work is you're a visual artist where you're not really clothed a lot of the time, how is that person controlling? If they want you to go do something that, as an art form is showing your skin more and more often, they're encouraging you to do something that's necessarily going to put your body out in front of other people's eyes. And yet you're trying to say that they're controlling. It doesn't reconcile. So, let's see. So, you asked him for the dates he'd be filming in Wales, correct? Yes. Mr. Major said to you, he doesn't know why you would need to know, and that you should not plan your life around him. Yes, correct? Yes. And you need to work in New York, correct? Yeah. You left this conversation with a bottle of wine and went to the beach, right? It was, we were drinking the wine, and it was, hey, is this the first time we're seeing this type of panic paragraph? I think we're getting a panic paragraph. It was, we were drinking the wine. It was, and we didn't want to waste it, so they said we could take it with us. So we took it with us, with some food we also didn't eat. And she's always like, I drank, but I ate food. Like, this is the panic paragraph. We have our first panic paragraph of this reading. But you were at the beach alone when you were writing these texts, right? I left an angry version of him to be alone. Whatever. So, Chaudhry objects is non-responsive. The judge says that's responsive. You can answer the question, or do you want to withdraw the question? You were alone when you wrote these text messages, right? That's correct. Yes. And then, I'm sorry to cut you off, but just so on redirect, which color is Miss Jabari and which color text is Mr. Majors? And then Jabari says, I'm gray, and go ahead. These are text messages with Holly, your friend, correct? Yes. So wait, iPhone users, would gray mean that, who sent these screenshots if Jabari is gray? Are these screenshots obtained from Jabari's devices or Holly's? These are text messages with Holly, your friend, correct? Yes. About Mr. Majors? About Mr. Majors, yes. And while you were at the beach with the bottle... Sorry, did anyone answer? So wait, would that mean Holly? Because this is text messages from Holly and Grace. So would they be Holly's Holly submitted the screenshots then if Jabari's name is gray? If Jabari's texts are gray? Just wondering who submitted them. But I'm not sure if, maybe the prosecution had to turn them over. Maybe they're in that, like, the 2 terabytes of data that were dumped on them. And while you were at the beach with a bottle of wine, Mr. Majors went back to work on his poetry, right? That's what he said, yes. Because he had a deadline, right? Yes. And you returned from the beach while you were texting Holly to where Mr. Majors was, right? Yes. And at that point, you told Mr. Majors that you wanted to go back to New York City, right? I don't recall that. Oh, she doesn't want this to go here. I don't recall. She does not want to go here. Miss Jabari, you got into the car that Mr. Majors rented and tried to drive back to New York City, right? I don't remember that at all. Do you remember being too drunk to operate the car? No. When you went to Bellevue on March 25th of this year, when I went to Bellevue Hospital, she might not know what Bellevue is, just on the night of the incident. Is that what you're talking about? Yes. Right after the police found you in the closet, they took you to, the court says no, objection sustained. Just ask about going to the hospital. She wanted to say the psychiatric ward. When you went to the hospital after the incident, oh, yes. Okay, that's where we are, right? Okay, you told the doctors there that you had 5 to 6 glasses of wine, correct? Possibly. I don't recall the number I told them. You didn't tell the doctors that you had shots of alcohol at dinner, did you? I don't remember. I'm sorry. You didn't tell... You were pretty certain when you testified about it. You counted them out. You were like, we had 2 drinks. I had 2 drinks of wine at the theater. You end up saying you had 3 cocktails, and one of the rounds was sent over, or you had a round sent over by someone that was a fan of Jonathan Majors. And you think it was 3 cocktails. So that actually would make it 6 drinks plus 7 if you went to go chug a drink. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. But whatever it was, she detailed on direct. Like, she punctuated, like, I had 2 glasses of wine, he had whiskey, then we had cocktails, and someone sent us over some shots, and that was it. And I ate a lot of food. I ate a lot of meats. And so, implying that she was only a little bit tipsy. But yeah, so you didn't tell them about the shots you did at Lucy's, did you? I don't remember what I told them, to be honest. You told this jury that you don't remember how much you drank the night of March 24th into 25th, right? I tried to recall to the best of my ability. But you don't actually remember, do you? I don't remember the precise number, no. What drinks do you remember having that night? I remember having 2 drinks at the theater, and then I remember drinking at the restaurant with Jonathan. I think it was 3 drinks. 3 or 5. What were those? I think they were a cocktail of some sort. Yeah, I don't remember. And then went to the bar. She's leaving out the nouns again. And then went to the bar and had a glass and a bit of champagne and some shots. That's it. That's like what I remember from 9 months ago or whatever. Now she's got to tell you guys how long ago it was. So obviously you guys can all understand how hard it is to remember. If you watched the other transcription readings, there was another line she said somewhere where it seems like she looked over to the jury and was like, you know how it is trying to remember something from that long ago. That's what she's doing here to make it justified because she doesn't want to say how much she drank. Let's see. 9 months ago or whatever. When you say some shots, how many shots? 1 or 2? Have any of you in your entire life had one of something? Like something quantifiable. Not like 1 bag, but like 1 thing. 1 M&M. 1 piece of bread. 1 egg. Did you ever turn around and be like, I had some eggs. I had some M&Ms. Like, do you ever say, I had some shots, and you mean you only took 1 shot? So, when you say some shots, how many shots? 1 or 2. I wouldn't want to promise the number. Where were they shots of? Tequila, probably, I think. And the shots that you did at the restaurant, what were those of? I don't recall doing a shot at the restaurant. You did review the video surveillance from the restaurant with the people, correct? Walking in and out, no time sat in the restaurant. I've never seen that. Yeah. Unless it was a while ago. I don't remember if I did. Sorry. Sitting here today, you don't remember the name of the play that you saw that night, right? Yeah, that's my bad. And you don't remember the time that you left the apartment to go to the play, right? Like a ballpark number? You don't remember the exact time, right? No. And you don't remember exactly what you ate at dinner, right? Not precisely, no. But you remembered it was a lot. You don't remember where you sat at the restaurant? Yes. I do, yes. You testified on direct, did you not, that you don't recall exactly where you were seated at the dinner. I couldn't make it out like the entrance of where the restaurant was, where the picture was. I couldn't place myself in it. I just got confused by the direction of it all. You do remember that you went to the restaurant that, before you left, Mr. Majors went to the bathroom, right? Yes. I don't remember, but I'm sure he did. And do you remember what you did while Mr. Majors went to the bathroom? No. Wait, sorry. Yes, one. Wait, can you explain numbers to me? Are you talking about Jabari, or do you want me to run through the numbers of her drinks? Because it's confusing. She doesn't know how much she drank. Or maybe she would say it's a British thing. Like they say some. I definitely don't think it's a British thing. I'm just joking that maybe she thinks that the jury won't know any better. But yeah, damn, she drinks a lot. And she's 120 pounds. She was trying to, and she says she takes sleeping pills regularly. And I'm like kind of like scared of certain pills. And I'm not trying to demonize them at all, but I'm not familiar with, if you're drinking and then taking sleeping pills. I don't know if there's like a contraindication there. But she did testify that she regularly takes 2 sleeping pills to regularly help her sleep while she's working, and she's taking them in New York when she's not working. But, you know, and if she drinks regularly and then takes the sleeping pills regularly, I don't think it's a zero effect to do those 2 things together. Maybe it is, but. And then, yes, talking about jabroni. Women don't metabolize alcohol as well as men. Yeah, she had a lot. Absolutely, she had a lot. The sleeping pills are because drinking long term messes up your ability to sleep. Yeah, that's what I think too. Oh, sorry, I didn't pull it up. That's what I think too. And I think it's also like anxiety, the idea of getting used to something that helps you calm down. Like she could also be taking the sleeping pills could coincidentally be helping her sleep, but then they also make her feel calm and able to go to sleep. The same reason that someone might take a drink, they need to calm down so they can fall asleep. So now they both kind of have, like, the sleeping pills are necessary because she can't sleep because of the alcohol, but then they're compounding this benefit to her of being able to calm down and relax and not be so emotional or whatever, anxious. And then let's see. Yes, the sneaky drink part. And do you remember what you did while Mr. Majors went to the bathroom? No. Mr. Jabari, while Mr. Majors was using the restroom in the restaurant, did you return back to the table and finish off one of the last alcoholic drinks? Perhaps. I don't know. After doing that, did you stash the glass so that Mr. Majors wouldn't see it? I don't remember doing that. Mr. Jabari, as part of this case, you have given things to the district attorney, correct? Can you define things? If you could be a little more specific. You gave the district attorney some pages of your journal, right? Oh God, we have journal pages. Oh no, not journal pages. I think it was one. I don't really have a journal, but it was something I had written down a while ago. Was it a diary? It was like a notebook. Well, at the top of it you wrote, I don't have my diary here, right? I can't recall, but possibly, yeah. And what you gave them was something you wrote about how you were feeling about Mr. Majors on a particular day, right? That's right, yes. But you haven't turned over any writings that you made for yourself about what happened on March 24th into 25th, have you? I didn't. Objection, Judge. Assumes existence of something. She could answer. I'm going to overrule that. I haven't written anything about what happened. And you also turned over some photos to the district attorney, right? Correct. And you turned those photos over, some photos, months ago, right? Yes. But just this past weekend, 8 months after this event, you gave the district attorney 6 other photos that you had not previously shared that you had related to this incident, right? They were like kind of copies of, I was sending them, say, pictures of, we have a panic paragraph. They were like kind of copies of, I was sending them, say, pictures of my ear and my finger, and maybe I took 4 or 5, I sent them 2. That's just what I did. When you say copy, these photos I'm referring to are different than the photos that you sent the district attorney previously, right? Yeah, different angle, or they're different, correct? Yes, yeah. And those photos that you shared over this weekend, those 6 photos before this weekend, you hadn't shared with anyone, correct? No, probably not. Just showed, maybe, my doctor. And these are photos of your ear and finger, right? Correct. And with the district attorney, you shared some text messages you have with Mr. Majors, right? Yes. And some text messages you have with other people, correct? Correct, yes. But you did not do an extraction of your own iCloud account, did you? I was not asked to. Did you do it? No. And did you not do an extraction of your objection, Judge? That's sustained. You don't have to answer. You did not provide the metadata. Objection, 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 sustained. You did not provide a screenshot of your WhatsApp call log from March 25th or March 26th, did you? Your Honor, can we approach? So they have a discussion. All right, would you read back the last question? So then they read it back. You did not provide a screenshot of your WhatsApp call log from the March 25th or March 26th, did you? Sustained, you don't have to answer that. Mr. Jabari, you use WhatsApp to make calls, right? Yes. And WhatsApp keeps call logs of phone calls made through it, right? I don't know. You've never looked at your call log through WhatsApp? I think it probably comes up in my normal, like, if I see who called my iPhone. You didn't take any screenshots of who you called on March 25th, did you? I don't think so. I don't know. Can't remember. On March 25th, you had two phones, right? Yeah, I had an American number and an English number. What you're calling an American number is actually an iPhone that Mr. Majors owned and had given you to use while you were in America, right? Yes. And you had both of these phones that night of March 24th going into March 25th, right? Correct. Yes. You had both of these phones with you the whole night, correct? Yep. And both of those phones when you got back to Mr. Majors' apartment, right? Yes. Before you left Mr. Majors' apartment with the police that morning, you had not remembered where you had put the phone in the apartment, right? Can you say that again? Sorry. Yes. You entered Mr. Majors' apartment on the morning of March 24th with both of those phones, right? Objection as to characterization. She testified they shared the apartment. All right. Did you return to the apartment with the phones? Oh, the judge is telling her to read it this way. So the judge is telling Chaudhry to ask, did you return to the apartment with the phones? So Chaudhry says, did you return to the apartment with both phones? Yes. And at some point in the morning when you were speaking with Holly, you asked Holly to call the American number because you couldn't find that phone, right? That's correct. Yes. And before you left with the police, you did find the American number, right? I think so, yeah. And you took that phone with you as you left, right? Yes, I think so. I can't remember. You took that phone. You did not give a copy of that phone to the district attorney, did you? Objection sustained. You were asked by Mr. Majors to return that phone to him, correct? No. Is it your testimony the district attorney never asked, never relayed to you that Mr. Majors had asked for his phone back? Not that day, a few weeks later. That's sneaky. So she says no because it wasn't literally Jonathan Majors, apparently, who asked him. It was the district attorney that relayed the question, but a few weeks later. You were asked for the phone back a few weeks later, right? Yes. And you did not return it, did you? No. You still have that phone, right? Yes. Both of the phones you had that night had the ability to take photos, right? Yes. And you did not turn over any photos you took from Mr. Majors' American phone willingly to the district attorney, did you? Objection sustained. The district attorney never asked to see the phone that Mr. Majors owned that you took with you, did they? Objection, relevance, judge, sustained. If we're moving on from the phones, it will be a good time to take a break. So then they take a lunch recess. So let's see. Yeah, stash the glass. Do you find it weird she's always taking pills but doesn't know the name of them, don't know the name of the restaurant? Well, she didn't want to admit to the spilled pills. It's like she didn't want to admit to how much she may have drank. She always left it at just two. She didn't want to say milligrams. She didn't want to say that. But I think mostly she didn't want to admit to having anything to do with the spilled bottle that had pills around it. Because the bottle that was spilled, it wasn't like they were all consumed. The bottle was spilled and the pills were all like scattered about, which would mean unless you accidentally bumped into them. If you bumped into them, there's a question of how stable were you at that point in time? You were saying that your drunkenness had worn down, but you're stumbling and don't remember knocking this pill bottle over. So that's bad in that regard. Or you tipped it over to make it be this visual. And she's a visual dancer. I think she thinks in terms of visual appearances. I think that's why she wanted to lay on the floor a certain way. But you have the appearance of the spilled over bottle. Someone that gets a message that says, there's no note, just letting you know what happened, or just you knowing what happened, and then you come back, whatever you see makes you call in an attempted suicide call because your ex-girlfriend, he says on the 911 call, is passed out. That spilled bottle, you're not going to sit there and think, well, she must not have taken all of these because they're all still here. You're just going to see a spilled pill bottle, know what you know, and you're going to panic. And he did. So that's why she always wants to not know about the pills, because she doesn't want the jury to understand and connect the dots as to why that bottle was spilled the way it was spilled. I don't remember hopping out of the car in the middle of the street. I don't remember Jonathan telling her to leave. Yeah, and she doesn't remember hopping out of the car, but she's like, I think the car was on the sidewalk. Like, no, it was in the median. It was in the middle of the road. Actually, there was no median. It was just in the middle lane of the road. She's like, yeah, I think it was pulled up to the sidewalk. I think it was on the sidewalk. Girl, like, no. And here she goes again, not remembering. Maybe it's a tactical move, but like under oath, you can't remember why are you under oath. And it's one of those things, like, she goes into detail when it's just kind of like, just say, like, straight up, just be like, I don't know. But I think she wants to make sure anything that the jury is thinking about, any situations that's brought up, she wants to try to frame it in her own way and make sure the jury is on board with it. And, Jimmy had noted that she would keep looking over at that first juror, the simp one, and she'd be like talking to him and they'd be like smiling at each other and, she's working her magic. It's totally tactical for the above comment, yeah. She only remembers what they tell her to say on the stand, not anything that would incriminate her, even though it's something so simple. No, I don't know, but yeah, like, kind of. Were these, yeah, they were over-the-counter sleeping pills. They were from, like, CVS or something. And they're the ones that I think she mentions that she bought that same over-the-counter one before. So she knows what they are. She knows she had them at the time. She knows she took sleeping pills that night. But, oh, that bottle that looks exactly like the one that I take all the time and said I took last night, I don't know what that picture's of. We'll probably see that. We'll get to that testimony, but that's what happened. And then let me hide that. So then, let's see, they're at lunch. Jabari comes back. You're still under oath. Okay. The witness, yes, thank you. Chaudhry. Ms. Jabari, yesterday you were asked by the people about what happened after you got out of the car the first time and you found those people on the street in front of the apartment. Do you remember that? Yes. And you testified about Mr. Majors walking by you again. Do you remember that? Yes. And you testified about Mr. Majors turning the corner and you going after him. Is that right? Yes. And you testified that you followed him around the corner partially because he was still your boyfriend, right? Yes. And that you were feeling like you had no explanation, correct? Yes. And you said that Mr. Majors was being quite loud. Is that right? Yes. And you testified that you said, no, let's do this in the car, right? Yeah, at some point in that conversation, yes. And that the reason was because you just didn't want anyone to watch or see anything. Is that right? Yes. And isn't it a fact that you yourself were being very loud on that corner? Perhaps. I don't know about very loud, but I wasn't whispering. I was probably talking and wanting him to hear. Were you screaming? I don't believe I was screaming. So when you were around the corner from where you found those people in front of 129 Lafayette, and you were speaking to Mr. Majors, it's your testimony you were not screaming, just to be clear. I don't believe I was screaming, no. Your Honor, at this time, we would like to offer second video of 129 Lafayette with audio. Based upon these questions, that's denied. Mr. Jabari, have you seen this video? Which video? Sorry. Have you seen any videos from 129 Lafayette from that corner? When I met Chloe and her friends, yes. Yes. How many videos from that right in front of that building have you seen? I believe just the one that we watched yesterday. Have you seen any videos from around the corner of that building? I think everything I've seen is what we've seen yesterday. Wouldn't it be great if they leaked this video of her screaming at him? I mean, it wouldn't change. There's people out there, it wouldn't have any impact on them, but they really there's people out there that really just picture her as being like, oh no, Jonathan, talk to me, please. I'm sorry. Even though she's running full speed. Like, I don't know anyone that would run and sprint after somebody, but then use a calm voice to talk to them. no, no, wait, just wait for me. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's weird that she doesn't believe she was screaming, but in that recording when Jonathan wasn't at all screaming, she felt like he was screaming and belittling her. Yeah, and she's like, and his voice is physically scary. I hear it. I'm scared of it. Like, come on. So they object. It's sustained. Oh, would it refresh your recollection on the question of whether you were screaming to watch the video of when you were around the corner that we didn't see? I'm going to object, Judge. That's non-responsive to the question. That's sustained. At any point when you saw Mr. Majors again, were you speaking loudly to him? I'm sorry, Judge. If we could clarify it again. I'm not sure where we are in the timeline or location. All right, just ask the question again or have it read back. At any point after Mr. Majors walked by you when you had found Chloe and her friends in front of 129 Lafayette, were you shouting at him? I don't think I was shouting. I think I was speaking to him, pleading with him. I wasn't shouting at the top of my lungs or anything like that. And there's going to be a reason. There's a reason why she's asking about this first. Because she's going to trap Jabari with something that she knows can be introduced. Not introduced because the video's already come in. She doesn't know that she can get, and she's not going to be able to, but she isn't sure that she can get this audio, this video in of where she's screaming. So she's starting with that. But she's going to get the jury to hear the words and how she's like, screaming? No, I wasn't screaming. Shouting? No, I wasn't shouting. But watch what happens when we get to ask Jabari about a video we know she's going to be able to watch again because it was shown yesterday. So, just asking. I just needed to get my bag and phone from the vehicle. You weren't asking who those messages were from? At one point, perhaps, it was, I think we were by the car and we were still, as opposed to the walking. That's almost a panic paragraph. May we approach, Your Honor? So they have a sidebar. Mr. Jabari, after you were on that corner with Chloe and her friends, Mr. Majors turned the corner back towards the car, correct? I'm unsure if the car was there at this point. I just know he turned the corner. And you turned the corner also? Yes. And after you turned the corner, and you turned the corner to follow Mr. Majors, correct? Correct, yes. And after you and Mr. Majors turned that corner, were you shouting at Mr. Majors? I don't believe I was shouting at him. Your Honor, yes. Are you sure you weren't shouting at him? That's sustained. Ask another question. Can you describe how it is that you were speaking to Mr. Majors? Yeah. I was just kind of saying, I need my bag, my phone. Chloe was also trying to help me get that. Could you describe your own tone when you were saying those things? Pleading, I would say, probably. What about the volume? Loud enough to hear, but I wasn't shouting. Mr. Jabari, isn't it true that you were screaming at Mr. Majors once you turned the corner from Howard and Lafayette? I don't believe I was screaming, no. Your Honor, I now offer that video with sound. Come up to the sidebar. So they have a sidebar. Mr. Jabari, the district attorney's office has provided certain financial we knew she was going to lose it, but it always sucks when they come back down from a sidebar and you know that they just jumped to another question and lost that sidebar. Mr. Jabari, the district attorney's office has provided certain financial benefits to you as a result of this incident. Isn't that right? I don't believe, no. Shouldn't you know that? Someone walks up to me and offers me $1, I'm going to remember that 9 months from now. Because it's random, but, anytime someone would offer you something, you have to consider it, right? So you're more likely to remember it because you've given it consideration. It's not like, something flies by you and someone asks you, hey, what color was that thing that flew by you? And you might not remember because you weren't considering it. You weren't giving it consideration. But if someone offers you something, you consider it. So, especially if we find out that you're going to accept some of it, you should remember. So she says, I don't believe, no. Were you not provided? Did you not? Let me go back. You were assigned a victim advocate through the district attorney's office, correct? What does that mean to someone to liaise with? Do you know someone named Rockwell Jefferson? Yes. That's the name of and that's someone who is a victim's advocate working with the district attorney's office, right? Correct. Yes. You've been emailing with this person. I have emailed her, yes. And in fact, you emailed her on July 7th, 2023 with your medical bill from Bellevue, correct? That's correct, yes. And that was the bill for $4,909.65, right? Damn. Correct, yes. And you sent that because you wanted the district attorney's office to help pay for that medical bill, right? Yes. Did they pay for that medical bill? I haven't heard the result of that yet. But you did ask for that, right? Yes. And in addition, you put in a claim for stating that clothing worth $750 needed to be replaced because of the incident. Is that correct? Lots of my items hadn't been returned to me, and they asked me, and I replied with that, yes. Objection, non-responsive, move to strike. No, that was responsive. Was your claim that it was $750 of clothing that needed to be replaced? Yes or no? Yes. And you also made a claim saying that, so first of all, on the clothing, Mr. Jabari, what clothing of yours was damaged because of this incident? None. You also stated that personal hygiene products of $250 needed to be replaced. Is that right? Yes. And you were, in fact, given $1,000 to replace these items by the district attorney's office. No. Has the district attorney's office provided reimbursement for any of your claimed damage as a result of this incident? No. But you have put in an application saying that you had moving costs related to this, right? This incident? Don't recall that. Would anything refresh your recollection? I guess so, yes. You had filled out forms to the Victim Services Unit, right? Yeah, like a compensation, yes. What sort of compensation did you ask for? Anything that wasn't returned, like the iPhone that you didn't return, anything that was at my apartment still, I believe, and also the ambulance fee and the hospital fee that he called and the damage he caused me. I asked for some support in that. So anything that was at my apartment still. And the district attorney's office paid for your travel from the UK to be here, correct? Yes. And they're paying for your accommodations, correct? Yes, while I testify. What about while you testify? Is that what you said? Just while I'm testifying, yes. So you testified that you were here over the weekend meeting with the district attorney's office in person, correct? Yes. And you, therefore, flew here before you met with them in person, correct? Yeah. Perhaps I worded that wrong. They provided my travel as I'm testifying, and then hotel accommodation up until when I finish testifying, and then I'll stay with my sister. How many days have you stayed in a hotel so you didn't leave after this? How many days have you stayed in a hotel that's been paid for by the district attorney's office? I arrived on, I don't know what day it is now. I think I flew on Friday. I hope I've not said that wrong. So, whatever. Friday until now, I've been in a hotel. And when I'm finished on the stand, I'll go to my sister's house. And in addition, the district attorney's office is paying for your meals while you're here, correct? No. Have they offered to pay for your meals? I don't know. Have they given you something called a per diem? I don't know. I haven't seen it if they have. Has the district attorney's office told you to submit any receipts associated with food and taxis you're taking while you're here? No. In addition, are you aware that the district attorney's office is paying for your friend Holly Blakey to fly from London? Objection as to relevance. That's sustained. Mr. Jabari, you know you were wanted by the NYPD since June of this year for assaulting Mr. Majors, right? Objection sustained. You knew that the NYPD had issued an I-card for your arrest as of June of this year, correct? I don't believe I knew that in June. I can't remember the exact month I found out about that. Is there anything that would refresh your recollection? Whenever it came out in the press was when I found out about it. At that time, you texted Miss Galloway the story in the press, correct? Oh, so you're out here searching. Hey, Jabari. Potentially, yes. And that was on June 27th that you sent the story to Miss Galloway, correct? Yes, that's when I found out. And you knew as of June 30th that it was Detective Mejia who wanted to arrest you, correct? I didn't know that they wanted to arrest me. No. I knew that was what was in the press. She's trying to clean that up for the jury. Mr. Jabari, you were represented. You had a lawyer in June of this year, correct? Like a victim advocate, support lawyer, pro bono situation. Yeah, from SFF-NY. And you know that your lawyer spoke with the district attorney's office about Detective Mejia, correct? Am I allowed to talk about what I spoke about with my lawyer? The judge says, I'm sorry. I'm unsure what to say. You can answer. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yes. You didn't want to be arrested, did you? No. You did not turn yourself in to be arrested to Detective Mejia until October 25th, did you? Objection sustained. You turned yourself in and then voluntarily surrendered to be arrested on October 25th, right? Yes. And the detective who arrested you and processed the arrest was Detective Mejia, correct? Yes. And you turned yourself in after the district attorney's office promised you that you would not be prosecuted in that arrest, correct? No, I wouldn't say that. Can you repeat the question? Sorry. No, she was told that, and she knew because Ross Kramer made a statement before the district attorney dropped the charges. She knew the district attorney had offered her a plea deal. So it's in, I did a video on this. I have the sources laid out. It was stated on the record before she turned herself in for arrest that there was already a deal in the works for her and that they were promised no legal repercussions whatsoever. And unless she's saying that her attorney didn't tell her that, she was aware. That's why she's wording it this way. No, I wouldn't say that. Can you repeat the question? Sorry. Do you want it read or rephrased? No, I just want you to repeat it. Sorry. And then she has the court reporter read it back. And you turned yourself in after the district attorney's office promised you that you would not be prosecuted in that arrest, correct? No, I wouldn't say that was correct. She's a liar. The district attorney's office did notify you they're not going to prosecute you for the arrest by Detective Mejia, correct? The lawyer made statements, and then there's info from the district attorney's office about this. Like, the district attorney's office did notify you that they're not going to prosecute you for the arrest by Detective Mejia, correct? Objection to the forum, sustained. You know that the district attorney's office has declined to prosecute you for that arrest, correct? I do know that, yes. Oh, so that she knows. And you knew as of September, correct? No, not correct. Chaudhry, may we approach? No, let's move on. The district attorney's office promised you that your arrest would be a secret, correct? Remember, she testified, I think it was earlier in the same page, the same day, but on direct. They asked her, they tried to get ahead of the arrest thing, and they're like, what's your knowledge of that arrest? Like, what is it as far as you know? And she says, it doesn't exist. So, for her to act like she has no clue. Like, the district attorney's office promised you that your arrest would be a secret, correct? Objection sustained. Ms. Jabari, you made it a condition of testifying here that the district attorney take no action on the arrest of you. Isn't that true? That is incorrect. Is it your testimony that you would have been willing to testify even if the district attorney's office had prosecuted you? Yes. And you conveyed that to the district attorney? I don't think it was asked. We didn't speak about that. I spoke strictly with my victim advocate lawyer about the issue. And you got a desk appearance ticket, right, when you were arrested? I'm still unsure on what the process was. I know that I went in like maybe a ticket thing. You never went to court, right? No. Ms. Jabari, you've been speaking with the district attorney in this case and also a victim's advocate, correct? Yes. And you said your own lawyer is a victim's advocate's lawyer, correct? Yes. And you said that your sister lives in the United States and she's a lawyer, correct? She's a UK lawyer. She's not practicing right now. She's being a mother of two. Ms. Jabari, oh, you must be so jealous. Ms. Jabari, are you aware that non-U.S. citizens who claim to be domestic violence victims, objection judge, sustained, because she's going to ask about that visa. You don't have a visa to work in the United States. Objection sustained. You applied for a visa to the United States, correct? Objection sustained. Did Mr. Majors ever pay for a lawyer to help you get a visa? Objection sustained. Mr. Jabari, you testified on direct about not being able to work when you first moved in with Mr. Majors. Can you explain why that was? Yeah, my O1, which is like an artist visa, was in process. We didn't find out about it until January, so I wasn't able to work until then. When you say find out about it, what do you mean? Got the result from the visa people. What was the result? That I got the visa. And you got it in January of 2023? Correct, yes. And after that, did you do any work in New York? I worked in the UK, actually, after that. Did you do any work in the United States after you got the visa? No. And who assisted you with the paperwork for that visa? Objection to relevance. It's irrelevant. That's sustained. Mr. Jabari, I want to ask you about your call with your friend Holly on the morning of March 25th. You called, is it Blakey or Blakely? Yeah, I didn't know that either. It's Blakey with no L. You called Miss Blakey at 7:56 in the morning, right? I believe so, yes. Hold on. That's right after she sent those messages to Jonathan Majors. She sent one at like 7:47, then 7:52, maybe 7:54. So she sends those text messages just letting you know what happened. That's interesting. She decides to send that last message to Jonathan Majors, and then minutes later, she calls Holly Blakey. You call Miss Blakey at 7:56 in the morning, right? I believe so, yes. And you did that through WhatsApp, correct? Yes. And when the police came and you spoke to them, you did not tell the police that you had spoken to Miss Blakey, did you? Objection, improper foundation, that's sustained. Mr. Jabari, when the police came, they asked you questions, correct? Yes. And one of the questions they asked you was, what's the last thing you remember, is that right? Possibly, yeah. It's quite an overwhelming situation. They asked me a lot of questions. Did they ask you the last thing you remember? Most likely, yes. You're not supposed to testify with a guess, but whatever. And I guess they didn't object to it. And they were asking you how it is that you found you were on the closet floor, correct? Yes. And you told them several things about what you remember, correct? Objection as to form. Sustained. You did tell them things about what happened before they found you, correct? Yes. And you didn't tell the police that you were texting with anybody before they found you, did you? I'm going to object on the same basis. Sustained. At any point when you were, come up 1 second, they have a sidebar, and then they sustain it. So let's see. Hey. Where am I? What was the last thing? The sleeping pills. Yeah, and I agree. Wasn't screaming at all on that recording, but Jabari decides what's screaming and what's not. She makes the definitions. So she has to go back in the car, but she was saying he assaulted her there. Let's go in there to be safe from all this loud publicity outside. But I'm also going to later say that in testimony, not what's happening in this moment, in testimony, months later, I'm going to be like, you assaulted me, and I feel unsafe around you. But now I have to figure out why I got in the car again with you a second time. If I was assaulted, I wouldn't willingly get into the car with the same person. And that one time when she gets back into the car, the friends are like way down the sidewalk still. She follows Jonathan ahead separately from them, and they get in the car, and they're standing way further away. It's not like the very last moment where, like Shams and Max are kind of standing right at the door. And Chloe is actually the one in the car with Grace talking to her. Jonathan Majors is outside, and that's when he's like, you can have the car. Go in the hotel. Bye. But the second time she gets back in the car, the friends aren't even like right there to stand watch or anything like that. And they're strangers, so it's not like you should even expect or guess that they would. Yeah, her apartment, the New York one. I'm sure she paid for that with her champagne bottle she bought on his card. But she read the timestamps earlier. Now she only believes so about the times. She's good at claiming things that aren't hers, her stuff. So they sustain, what was what objection are we even sustaining at this point? Did you tell the police you were texting with anyone before they found you? It's sustained. Mr. Jabari, you spoke with Miss Blakey that morning. How many conversations did you have with her? And I gotta go back, I gotta pull that 756 thing, because if that's when she starts talking to Holly, the house of cards is knocked over. And you exhaust your options trying to get Jonathan Majors to come back, and you say, I'm gonna text him. There's no note, just you knowing what happened. And then I'm immediately gonna talk to Holly. I'm gonna call her. I'm gonna send her pictures of my hand. The fact that she would think to call or text Holly right then and there, suspect as hell. And she tried to come up with an excuse for it. She's gonna say, because I had resolved to move on and I just needed to talk to someone. You've lied about enough other things here that I'm not gonna believe your reasoning on that. I think she was claiming everything because Megan was there, like, just trying to piss her off. Yeah, like, it was my house. I used to live with him. By the way, I really hate, like, the type of people that, like, want to throw things at the new girl. Like, I know some people do go back and mess with their exes, and they're messy, but for the most part, like, what happiness comes from chasing your ex's new partner? It's just weird. I didn't like that the first thing she said to the officers is, what did he do? Did he do something to me? I don't know what happened to me. What happened? Did he do it? Like, what are you even asking them what he did? You don't even know what happened. That guy was you're talking about Max? That guy was about to follow Jonathan in an angry way. Then his woman, Chloe, grabs him, slaps him. It's not clear what she said to get that guy mad and started following Majors. To me, I think, like, Chloe was like, don't start. Catch a cab and go get looked at. There's that. And especially in New York, there's like first responders, like police around every corner. Mr. Barr, you spoke with Miss Blakey that morning. How many conversations did you have with her? Multiple. It was more than one. I would have to be my memory refreshed to tell me exactly how many. The first one was after 7:56 in the morning, correct? I think so. Therefore, all those conversations would be between 7:56 and just after 11 when the police found you, right? Can you repeat that? Sorry. When you say you had multiple conversations with Miss Blakey, you're talking about so Chaudhry is on it. She sent that suicidal looking text message and then started setting this up with Holly Blakey. This is a setup. Like, that's insane. That's why she's like, can you repeat that? I think so. I don't know. She's doing some panicking now. When you say you had multiple conversations with Miss Blakey, you're talking about the time period between 7:56 in the morning and when the police found you in the closet, right? Yes. Yes. And you also sent your friend Holly some photos, correct? Yes. But you did not send her all the photos you had taken in the bed that morning, right? Correct. And you spoke with your friend Holly around 8:15. Is that right? Yeah. Again, I would have to have my memory refreshed for the exact time, but if that's what's there, yes. You told your friend you were a bit scrappy with Mr. Majors, right? Yes. And you also told her you didn't know exactly how your finger injury happened. Yes. And you told this jury earlier that you could not lie on the right side of your head. Is that right? Yes. But you told your friend Holly there was blood on the pillow, right? Yeah. There could have been blood on the pillow. The question is if you told your friend there was blood on the pillow. And you have to answer it. Yeah, there could have been blood on the pillow. Because you know what's coming. That would be the blood from the ear on the right side of your head, correct? Yes, it was in my hair and on my ear. But you told your friend there was blood on the pillow, correct? Yeah. I can't remember exactly what I said, but probably if there was, yeah. So again, we're going from yeah to probably, yeah. Well, was there blood on the pillow? Yeah. I believe there was blood. It's hard to say that I looked at everything. Kind of got up and just tried to deal with it all. Well, if you didn't look, why did you tell your friend there was blood on the pillow? If I said to her on the phone there was blood, then yeah, there was probably blood on the pillow. Did you take a photo of the blood on the pillow? No. And you texted with your friend Holly again at 9:19 that morning, correct? Again, same answer. If that's what it says, I would have to have my memory refreshed of the exact time. Would anything refresh your recollection as to the time? Yes. I would like to hand the witness what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 401. Again, just look at that, read it to yourself. When you're done, put it down face down, and let us know if it refreshes your recollection. Defense Exhibit 401. Does that refresh your recollection? Yeah, kind of. It's in the English time again, so it says 12:13. So whatever time that was here, I don't know, so would that be 7:13? Do you know the time difference between New York and LA? 5 hours, sometimes 4. So wait, what? No, there's 3. So around 7, 8, 13. Why are they talking about LA? Your Honor, we can give Your Honor the proof of this, but we just asked you to take the judicial notice of the time difference on that date between New York and LA. What time does the text show? This text says from 12:13, and it's from Holly's phone, but she was in the UK. So I was in New York when I sent it, so I believe it's normally 5 hours, sometimes 4 hours, depending on the time. She got that at 12:13 a.m. or p.m.? p.m., lunchtime. So then minus 5 would be 7 a.m. All right, work it out amongst yourselves exactly what time of day it was on that date. Because as she said, right, it could be, Your Honor, we're happy to give you just work it out. Look at the national, yes, and just work out the time and stipulate to it. Your Honor, the parties stipulate that on March 25th, it was a 4-hour difference. So that call would have been at 9:13 a.m., 9:19, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 8:13. Yes, the call. But you texted Miss Blakey again at 9:19 a.m. The court. So hold on. I'm confused now. We don't have a 56 number. So are they not correcting that time? But you texted Miss... Oh, I think it's because they're looking at stuff from Blakey's phone. So the time zone thing is only an issue on stuff that's provided by Blakey. So, yes, the call. But you texted Miss Blakey at, again, 9:19 a.m. Is that what the parties stipulate to? Is 9:19 the time the text came through? Which text are we talking about? Did you send any text to Miss Blakey at 9:19? Yes. And you told this jury earlier that you're upset, so you stopped looking at your phone to see whether Mr. Majors had reached out to you, correct? I believe what I said was that I stopped replying to him, not on my whole phone, but just regarding him. No, you said you weren't going to look. But you did see his text to you, correct? I believe I saw it, yeah. And you told Miss Blakey what Mr. Majors was text. Oh, so she's talking about the, did you leave the keys? Goodbye, Grace. That's where this is going. So, did you leave the keys? Goodbye, Grace. And then something is texted to Holly Blakey at 9:19 right after Jonathan Majors sends that. I believe I saw it, yeah. And you told Miss Blakey. So that's why she's walking it back, that she said she didn't look at her phone. She made a point of not looking at her phone anymore because she doesn't want to get caught in a lie now. So she sees Jonathan Majors say, did you leave the keys? Goodbye, Grace. And then she texts something specific to Holly at 9:19. I believe what I said was that I stopped replying to him, not on my whole phone, but just regarding him. But did you see his text to you? You did see his text to you, correct? I believe I saw it, yeah. And you told Miss Blakey what Mr. Majors was texting you, right? Yes. And in these text messages to your friend, you do not mention that Mr. Majors had. Objection, Judge. Let me hear it. Go ahead. In these text messages to your friend, you do not mention that Mr. Majors was hurt, do you? Jabari. In the text messages? No. Objection. That's overruled. We spoke on the phone. In the text messages, I don't say, I just send the photos of the injuries he caused me. At 11:07, you were texting with Miss Blakey again, correct? Yes. And you were responding to her text asking how you are, correct? Yes. And you responded that you fell asleep, correct? Yes. I had fallen asleep again on the bed. So she falls asleep again on the bed. That's 2 times she fell asleep, but in her direct testimony, she did this thing where she said she was falling asleep but woke up every time she rolled and felt the pain on her right side. But then also she said something else in direct testimony where she was like, she was trying to fall asleep, like she couldn't actually ever fall asleep. So she doesn't know. I had fallen asleep again on the bed, yeah. And at 11:07 you said, I'm up now, correct? Yes. And you also said going to pack now, correct? Yes. And in fact, you sent her 4 text messages at 11:07 a.m., correct? Yes, I think so. Approximately 13 minutes after that is when the police found you. Isn't that right? I don't know the timing of the next bit. I didn't have a look. You reviewed the body-worn camera footage in this case? I have seen it, yes. Mr. Jabari, where were you at 11:07 when you were sending these 4 text messages to your friend? I believe I was, in the bathroom area. I had just been kind of sick. You were in the bathroom when you sent these messages? I don't recall the exact place, but it would either have been the bathroom, it would either have been the bedroom or the bathroom. Mr. Jabari, when you were in the bedroom laying in the bed, did you ever hear Mr. Majors enter the apartment? No. Did you ever hear Mr. Majors knocking on the door? No. Did you ever hear Mr. Majors banging on the door? No. Did you ever hear Mr. Majors try to open the bedroom door? No. Do you know how Mr. Majors, you testified that you locked the bedroom door, correct? Yes. Do you know how Mr. Majors was able to get inside the bedroom? No. Do you know how the police were able to get inside the bedroom? No. Did you ever hear anybody try to unlock the door? No. Did you hear Mr. Majors call out your name? No. I remember when I woke up to the people, I could hear him. I think he was saying, baby, something like that. I don't know if he said my actual name. And it's your testimony that until you woke up, you didn't hear Mr. Majors' voice in the apartment at all. Correct. And you didn't know that he was in the apartment at all. Correct. And so it is also your testimony that when you woke up to the police, is that right? Yeah, I think it was the police. And isn't it true that Mr. Majors found you before you called the police? I don't know. Isn't it true that Mr. Majors spoke to you before he called the police? I don't know. I don't recall that at all. Isn't it true that Mr. Majors touched your face before he called the police? I don't know. Do you know if Mr. Majors checked your breathing before he called the police? I don't know. Did you hear Mr. Majors call 911? No. Mr. Jabari, when police arrived and found you, you were not holding your phone, were you? No, I guess not. I don't remember. Is it safe to say that if you were holding it, it would be in the videos? Yes. And you stayed in the closet until you got dressed to leave with the police. Is that right? Yes. And when you got dressed to leave with the police, you're holding your phone, correct? Yeah, I imagine so. Yeah. Another yeah that's not really a yeah. And in fact, you come out the closet and you look for a charger, correct? Yeah, and there's a video of her plugging it in. I think so, yes. And so the phone was in the closet with you, correct? I can't really recall, but I imagine so, if that's what the video shows. Where did you put your phone in the closet? Objection. Asked and answered. The judge is like, if she knows, you could answer. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm sorry. Where did you find your phone before you left the closet? I don't remember. Mr. Jabari, did you stash your phone when you were in the closet? Objection has to form. Just use a different word. Did you hide your phone so it wouldn't be visible when you were in the closet? No. When the police asked you what's the last thing you remember, you did not say that a few minutes ago. I texted my friend Holly, did you? Asked and answered, Judge. Sustained. Did you remember when the police asked you what's the last thing you remember that you were at 11:07 texting your friend Holly? I'm going to object as to form, just rephrase the question. That's sustained. At the time the police asked you and found you on the floor, what's the last thing you remember? At that moment, did you remember texting your friend at 11:07? Yeah. No, I didn't at that point. That's not the first thing that popped into my mind. And you didn't tell this jury that you were texting your friend at 11:07, did you? Objection. That's sustained. She wasn't asked. The people didn't ask you that question, did they? I don't believe so. So when the police came, they asked you what your name was. Isn't that right? I'm sure, yes. As I said, it's kind of very overwhelming. You were unable to tell them your name, correct? I don't think so. I think I would have been able to tell them my name, but I don't remember. Would anything refresh your recollection? Yeah. Your Honor, maybe with the headphones, thank you. So now we're going to have her listen to the audio. Let's see. She slapped him and said, "Are you dumb?" He was in Creed. Haha, Jameer would have been a different story if Chloe didn't. Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, Chloe was like really. I mean, it's like sucks for her that she's like slapping someone on camera. Maybe it's not that serious, I guess. But not to downplay slapping at all. But it's just like a. But it was like kind of for his own good. Like, stupid, don't get your ass beat. But my point was, Jabari looked like she was talking about Jonathan to her new acquaintances. Like, all oogly-eyed about it, too. Enough to get the guy to white knight, and then she texted, girl, he want me out now. That's exactly it! So, they're getting the headphones. What we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is Miss Jabari indicated that she needs her recollection refreshed. So as to not have you leave the courtroom so that can be done, I've asked both sides to have laptops and headphones available so that if there is a piece of evidence that needs to be seen, to refresh recollection, that won't be played in open court. That will be given to the witness so the witness can take a look and see if that piece of the video does refresh the witness's recollection. So that's what's going to happen now. While they're doing that, I want to check with the jury. Is anybody hearing noises or chatter from the audience? I see everybody saying no. So good audience. Your Honor, I'll come back to this. Mr. Jabari, you continued to text with your friend after you went to the hospital on March 25th, right? This is your friend Holly. Yeah, I think I sent her a text whilst I was at the hospital. And at 5:09 p.m. New York time, you told Holly, I think I fainted. I was sick. I remember that, but fainted whilst I was packing. Is that right? We're packing! The suitcase was downstairs. This is my suitcase thing. All the ends are tied up. It's done. There's closure. She's a liar. She fainted. Where did she say she fainted, guys? Where did she say she fainted? She says she fainted in the bathroom. She passed out and was unconscious in the bathroom while she was packing. She's locked in her bedroom. Where is the suitcase? It's on the first floor. Her testimony. She's a lie. She was actually in the closet, yeah. She was in the closet, but she's testifying up until Priya hasn't called her out on it yet. But she's been testifying that she was on the bathroom because she wanted to take a nice nap on the floor. And then she also said that she passed out and was unconscious. So she's testified to two different explanations of why she was on the floor. One was that she passed out and was unconscious. And the other was that, I know it sounds crazy, but I went to the toilet because I felt sick. And the floor's warm in there because it's heated. So I just took a nap. So those are her explanations. And she says that she's on the bathroom floor. She is, in fact, in the closet. But she hasn't testified that. She's testified that it was the bathroom. But she testified, yeah, who packs bottomless? Oh, guess I'm going to take these pants with me, so I might as well take them off and put them in. Like, come on. But yeah, she went mental and beat herself up after the text about the key. I mean, there was that chick in the UK that like hit herself with a hammer over a dozen times. I don't know the number of times, but she like battered herself up just to falsely accuse an ex. Yeah, that whole scene looks staged. And that's the thing. She doesn't remember him tripping, but we didn't get to the point yet, but we're gonna find out she texted Holly that she heard him. And then she's testifying that, like, I didn't hear anything. But she texted Holly to be like, I heard him trip over the suitcase that's downstairs and I'm going to pass out whilst packing. Like, it's all a lie. And there's people out here still calling him an abuser. And it drives me nuts. Yeah, someone who wasn't planning to pack. Hypatia, is that lack of oxygen? Hold on. Oh wait, I'm getting like a Master of Science Greek person. Oh, it's a Greek So I gotta read into that. I don't know that much about... So Greek origin, highest, feminine name of Greek roots. You're gonna have to give me like the quick rundown on that. And then I can do some deeper reading so I can understand the reference. But all I'm seeing is a philosopher, astronomer, and mathematician. But let's see. Oh yeah, we're gonna get to the luggage again. Cool. So, at 5:09 p.m. New York time, you told Holly, I think I fainted. I was sick. I remember that, but fainted whilst I was packing. Is that right? That's what I said to her, yes. There was no luggage in the closet when the police found you, correct? Go, Chaudry. Correct. And you've reviewed the body-worn footage, right? The body-worn camera? Yes, yes, yes. There's no luggage physical in the body-worn camera footage, right? I don't believe so. And you told Miss Blakey on text, and Jonathan obviously tried to open the door and couldn't. Is that right? Yes. And you just testified that you're not aware that Mr. Majors was there at all, correct? Yes. So, you don't know whether he tried to open the door or not, do you? It was quite clear that they had said that they had tried to open the door, and it became clear, the situation, when I kind of was being informed by everyone around me. Who said that? The people, the officers, the fire department guy was there, and things like that. It became quite clear. It's your testimony that the police and fire department told you that what? Well, I knew I locked the door, so I knew they had to get in, and it became clear with what they were asking me and say to me what happened. I pieced it together. At 5:13, while you were at Bellevue, you texted your friend Holly again and said, so he called the fire department. Is that right? If that's what the text says, yes. And how is it that you knew Mr. Majors called the fire department? There was fire department in the house. I thought you testified that you woke up to the police. Yeah, I believe the first people I saw were police, but I think I also testified that I saw fire department and paramedic people there. There was more than just police officers. But your text to Holly was that he called the fire department. Was that right? Yes. If that's what it says, yes. Then you told Miss Blakey at 5:13 p.m. I just want to be clear. It is your statement that you didn't know Mr. Majors was in the apartment until the police woke you up. Is that right? Asked and answered. Perez is like, uh-oh. That has been asked and answered. I just want to make sure. I think it's clear. Okay. And therefore, you didn't hear Mr. Majors speak to the police before you were woken up by the police. Is that right? Yeah. When I was waking up, I heard his voice. Knew he was there. You didn't really say that earlier. And beyond that, you didn't hear Mr. Majors speak to the police, did you? Did you say beyond or before? Beyond that. I don't quite understand the question. Can you say it again? When exactly did you hear Mr. Majors and the police discuss when you were up? Or what exactly did you hear Mr. Majors and the police discuss when you woke up? I heard his voice, and I heard some comments on my injuries, and I couldn't tell you any more than just what was in my memory. And you testified that the police took Mr. Majors out of the closet into another space, right? Eventually they did, yes. And you weren't there when Mr. Majors was speaking to the police, were you? No, I was not. They were in the bedroom, and I was in that area. You didn't hear what Mr. Majors and the police discussed, did you? No. You and your friend Holly over text at 5:13 that he told them we had an argument, is that right? You told your friend Holly over text at 5:13 that he told them we had an argument, is that right? So she's texting Holly. He told them we had an argument. Yes, yes. But you're the one who told police that you had an argument with Mr. Majors, right? They also said they knew. They said, he told us you got into an argument in the car, things along those lines. I also said the same. Is your testimony that the police told you that Mr. Majors told them you had an argument in the car? Yeah. I believe that they made... What? I believe that they made it aware that he was commenting on the argument in the car. And they did this while you were in the closet, right? Yeah, either in the closet or on the way. I started getting worried, and they said he had been arrested. I started worrying about him, and I wouldn't be able to tell you. As I said, I was tired and overwhelmed, but that conversation came up. They said, well, he did say as well, and things like that. Mr. Jabari, at 5:56, while you were still at Bellevue, you text your friend Holly and say, I sent him a message before we spoke, like, I can't believe you've done this. Goodbye. Well, you did not send that text message. This is what she's saying she sent him. I can't believe you've done this. Goodbye. And then he couldn't get in the room, so I guess he thought I was dead. I don't know. Is that right? Yes. So that's the full text message. Let's do that one more time. She sends Holly a text that says, I sent him a message before we spoke, like, I can't believe you've done this. Goodbye. And then he couldn't get in the room, so I guess he thought I was dead. I don't know. Is that right? Yes. And you testified on direct this morning that the note you left, that the note you sent him, there's no note, just you knowing, was not a reference to suicide. Correct. Yes. Mr. Jabari, isn't it a fact that the text that you sent him is a specific reference to something that has happened in your life? No. Isn't it true that when you were a teenager, your boyfriend committed suicide and left you? Objection as to relevance. Sustained, sustained. Your Honor. Disregard that last question. Your Honor, could we? Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Jabari, do you need a moment to step outside? All right. The witness exits. Your Honor, may we approach? So then there's a sidebar. They're going to move on to a different subject. I think, what do we've got? Yeah, it's like 40 pages here. Let's wrap it with that ending and go out with a bang. We can wrap up this reading. I mean, we can talk about the last comments here and everything. We can wrap up this reading right when the witness leaves. It'll be a nice break for us to come back and start reading again. But yeah, some crazy things just in the cross already so far here. So Jabari doesn't want to let up on different timelines as it regards, you know, she texts Holly as soon as she's done texting Majors. Then she sends Holly something specific as soon as Majors texts her, did you leave the keys? Then she says she texted Majors saying, because of what you did to me, I can't believe you've done this, when she did not text that to him. And she acknowledges that, I guess he thought I was dead, I don't know. You know, so a lot of interesting things in here. She also doesn't want to lay the foundation for the picture of Jonathan Majors' side of his face. And Chaudhry's like, but you recognize his beard, right? She doesn't want to let that photo come in. She knows not to say something that's going to lay the foundation for the injury photo to come in. What else did we have? I mean, I feel like there's like something with every paragraph with her just because of the way she walks around everything. You know, the confusion about like telling the fire department that he called the fire department. She didn't want to say 911, but she was also like, I guess he thought I was dead. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what you guys are saying. Oh my God, I'm slow. Sorry. Now I understand. But yeah, she can piece together how people got in, but can't piece together how her drunk naked arse got on the floor. It got on the bathroom floor and somehow like slithered over to whatever. She doesn't know what happened to her phone. She passed out. She passed out unconscious. But her phone was hidden somewhere. So while she was falling, she must have had the foresight to, let me put it here somewhere, hide it somewhere. I've never known someone to pass out and be able to consciously go do something else with an object that they're holding that would make it out of sight. It would just fall on the ground with you. Well, it doesn't take any brain to be a movement coach, apparently. If Jabari had the choice with truth or a lie, she'd take the lie. I understand why she called her a liar so many times in her closing statements, but somehow the jury didn't see that. It worked because she kept smiling at him, as if she didn't set up a scene to imply she hurt herself exactly. I'd say the lawyer shouldn't have asked about that ex. It might be possible. I mean, I'll have to see, because this is a blind read for me, so obviously I've heard, you know, bits and pieces talking about the case or whatever, so when I say a blind read, it's not like I haven't already heard parts of what's going to happen, but I haven't read the transcript word for word. And they're obviously not going to come back to that question and talk more about it. But I do kind of get it. Because it's kind of, there could be a lot of reasons why that question would be relevant right there, but one of them to me is, that happened to you. You know how painful it was to you. So if you have this idea in your head of how to hurt somebody else, this might be something that you think of because it's a pain that you know. It's something that you could conceive because you've experienced it. That's like one thing that I think that maybe that's why she asked that question. But we don't have a line of questioning on it because it's they're like a move on. And yeah, Grace is much smarter than she appears to be. I agree. I mean, there's a big difference between not wanting to acknowledge your own actions versus just not being intelligent or not having you know, quick thinking. Um, I think there's a denial problem, not a understanding problem. She made her take back so many things, but it keeps getting objected, but it's not wrong at all. They're just playing their cards close and just manipulative. And then the jury at least half was on her side, obviously. Yeah. And sometimes that's it. And I think a lot of it is like, you know, she's testifying and she's really bubbly and she has this accent. I think a lot of the things that we're able to see, because I'm just reading it, I don't know where you guys are all from, um, but, you know, she's a British girl in a New York court. Her accent is going to be different. It's going to be something new and a different way of listening than those six jurors speak. I don't think we have any information that any of the six of them are also British. So there's like an extra layer to the way you're going to hear the words that she's saying. But we're reading it as text, and at least for me, I'm obviously reading it myself. I'm reading it in my own voice. It's, you know, I'm interpreting the words. I'm able to interpret the words without having to dissect a layer of an accent or um, a jolly emotion or an emotive emotion that's delivering it. And then I froze the picture of her neck from GMA, and those marks were on her jawline and in between her ear. How? Was it a different picture than the ones that have like, I think it was this side of her neck. The ones that have, there's like some like gray straight lines here. But yeah, I don't know. But a jaw, if you're falling on your side, that's gonna jut out. And especially if you have like a skinnier neck and a stronger jawline, if you're falling in a certain way, that's gonna be the point of contact. She tried to get her friend to go along with the passing out while packing. Yeah, like to plant that seed. And that's the same thing, like what I think about that ice story. You know, if you say something and then later that person 9 months later is asked, do you remember anything about, you might remember something because it was put in your head, but not because it's something that actually happened. I wouldn't have called the police, just coldly woke up. Grace, we're not going to do this. Get your stuff. Let's go. I mean, yeah, especially she was leaving for a trip anyway. Yeah, the slang is also different. That grand thing, that tripped me up. I know from my Irish relatives, they say grand and brilliant all the time. And there's like is it like Reddit? I think there's like a Twitter account that does it too, but it's like it's all about how Scottish people talk and I can't understand it until I say it out loud and then eventually the words make sense, but the way it's written doesn't make sense to me. So, a child is a lie, still a lie is a lie, no matter the accent. It's true. I truly hope Jonathan can get his back in court, somehow at least. However he does in his appeal. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure they'll make a bunch of different arguments on the appeal, and the judge might just flat out be like, well, I'm not hearing any of these, and then they might appeal it again because he has the passion to do so and the resources to do so. But it sucks to think about because, you know, it can take so many steps in the appellate court to get your argument heard before a judge is like, you know, actually there is an issue of law here that we should adjudicate. But most people can't do that fight. So he would say awesome, not grand, and great, not brilliant. This pic was more clear. It looked like shutter marks or something. Check it out when you get a chance. And it was just in the interview. Was it in the longer one, the like hour long? Or where did you just watch it through like Dramax live stream or something? I can just go scrub until I find the part. I also did wonder if it's common to dissociate from pronouns and nouns growing up in Britain. I would say another point, but I'll be speculating too much. I thought about that too, but I don't know. I play a lot of like, and this would be typing, it wouldn't be saying out loud. When I was like 10, I started playing this game called RuneScape, and it's global, but it's like largely people based in the UK. And like I type the word you a lot in words like color, favorite, just because my socialization growing up was typing with these people. And I don't really specifically I've never noticed a pattern of them dropping the nouns when they're the pronouns when they're starting a sentence. But it's possible that it is. It's possible that it's also like certain areas that may do that. And then the neck photo on GMA that didn't look like a handprint at all. It looked mechanical. Yeah, there was one I saw of her neck, and it was just like straight lines. And there was the closet. It has those shelvings. The lines almost looked like the same width of the thickness of the wood that made the shelving. So I pulled it up online, the evening show, the ABC site. All right, so I'm going to have to look at that. And then I'd like to mention there's another Marvel star in court for SA, but not much coverage, and another that accused of sending inappropriate pictures to a minor, but literal silence from him and media. You mean him as in the accused, that neither of them have said anything. That's what you mean. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard about it. And also I'm not like really in the Marvel world, so sometimes if something is kind of known because of its Marvel related news, I'm outside of that bubble for the most part, although I'm seeing more of it now. So I don't think I've heard about what you're talking about, to be completely honest. And then literal silence from both them and the media. If it, is it in court already? Or is it like a petition, a complaint was filed? Because that could be why there isn't much buzz either. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it was self-inflicted, but by accident from her earring. Yeah, the earring was like weird, and I feel like in one of the pictures it was like, kind of like sitting looped. But who knows? And I don't really I can't wrap my head around how the way that the ear looked bloody at whatever time in the morning, how if it happened in the car, that someone wouldn't have seen blood earlier in the night. I just don't think that makes sense at all. Has anyone seen a cute picture of Grace yet? She always looks blonde to me. Who's the Marvel guy or girl? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm open to all that. I'm gonna go look and see if it's a different picture. I'm also I don't know if they'll want to send them over, but I will reach out to the defense on their exhibits. The prosecution has not responded to my FOIL request. They technically, I think they have like a week and a half more to do it. They responded to the deadline last time with an extension of 30 days to respond to me. So we'll see. But I do want to try to get that video of the drink that she snuck while Jonathan Majors is in the bathroom. And honestly, like anything else, I understand that they might not want to release certain things because it'll be obvious that it was released by them, but I'm not sure that anything's protected. If it was admitted as an exhibit, it's possible that they're free and welcome to release it to whoever asks for it. But I'll ask and see if they want to send anything over that we can look at in line with the testimony. But other than that, I know we were still waiting on an answer for this. But feel free to leave it as a comment, and we can see that and we can look at it, especially if it's something that becomes a big thing. I'm sure we'll talk about it. We'll hear about it. But until then, I have to go set up for help start with this tournament tomorrow, and they've been doing long days, so I want to get some sleep and hopefully come back on. Danny might come on to talk tomorrow, which would be great because we'll pick up with this cross-examination. And then once this is over, is the next day? The next day will be when Jimmy was in court. So we have about 40 more pages here. And then if Danny comes in, and we get to read the part of cross-examination where Jimmy was in court and Danny wasn't there, it'll be cool because Danny can follow along and be like, oh, that's what I didn't get to hear myself. So we'll arrange that tomorrow, probably sometime tomorrow evening. I don't have a solid schedule because I don't know when I'll be done with everything else during the day, but I'll put up a live. We'll do that. And then, no, thanks you guys for being here, and thanks for still talking and being interested in this case, because I think people are listening when they hear someone on X say like, no, that's not how the case went. He wasn't an abuser. The verdict wasn't that he was found guilty of abuse. So keep talking. It's working. I actually saw a headline change. A headline about that GMA interview was like, I think it was the Hollywood Reporter. It was like, oh, Jonathan Majors can't say that he didn't hurt Grace Jabbari. And then there was a reaction. I think it was CJ. I need an assist with his name. Let me look up his name. I think he's CJ on here, but it's everything. Everyone loves a good story. He made a tweet in response to the Hollywood Reporter. A bunch of us were like, hey, this is a stupid headline. It's inaccurate. And then they actually went and updated it to say something like, he maintains that he didn't cause the injuries, something like that. So talking is working. It's having some impact. Maybe not changing all the things that we want to see change, but it's making small changes. So keep at it. Thanks for being here, you guys. I'm only one voice, so like you guys are just as important, even though I'm the one waving my hands and acting out Jabari's testimony here on the screen. So, and then GMA corrected the relationship length timeline. That's awesome. Yeah, because she keeps saying like 2 also. Like the 2 years thing is it's really important to know that someone wasn't even dating long enough to be domiciled as a, I don't know the legal term, but in some places it's like a domestic partner, um, where it's just like kind of assumed that if you share a place together, it's both of yours because you've been together long enough. She's not even anywhere close to meeting that standard, but she's just assuming that everything was theirs. They were together almost 2 years. You know how I feel already. Cool, we have an answer. So, oh, I did a thing about Vin Diesel with Groot. I don't know. Is there news that that complaint went forward? Um, because I did do a reading of the complaint. Okay, so Tommy Lee, Jermaine Jackson. That's the news I'm getting when I search for him. Nigel Lithgow. Are all people hit with suits because of the new California law? And that California law is similar to the one that was going on in New York, the Adult Survivors Act. So California has something similar, and these lawsuits are being filed under it. Vin Diesel's one of them. And then, but yeah, the other one's not in court. I think I heard other people, but it's in the it was like, I don't know if I was on like a Chillmonger stream or something and people were talking about that. It was whatever it was something that was like Marvel community. So when I'm saying I heard someone talk about it, it wasn't like there was buzz in the general public. It was a niche buzz. But yeah, so I did do that Vin Diesel coverage. I didn't see anything new with it yet. But if something new comes out of that, I'll follow up on that for sure. I did a reading and I noticed some inconsistencies. I mean, she's saying that it affected her work opportunities, but she worked for him for like 9 days, to not even 9 days. It was like a week. I did the exact math in the video, but it was like 9 days she worked for him total. And then she says that she lost opportunities for it for years, but after she went and got a position with Disney and got promoted after a year and a half and had a 10-year tenure with them. Then that tenure ends, she starts freelancing, and a year into freelancing, she brings this lawsuit against him. So there were some things I noticed about it. Um, it was so long ago that it's kind of like a he said, she said type thing. But I did read it. If you guys want to go do a breakthrough of all the details that were alleged in that complaint. And then yeah, it's like I haven't heard anything, and you probably won't because I'm assuming he hasn't settled if we haven't heard that he settled. And the courts are probably, it's been holidays. The courts are moving slow. We won't really hear much on that until if the court decides to hear the case, to move it forward. I think if the court moves it forward, the production companies, the other employees, all the John and Jane Does, and then the sister are gonna like move to get us removed from the lawsuit because Asta Jonasson, the one suing Vin Diesel, is suing his sister and all of his production companies and like 10 John Does. So she's suing the kitchen sink. And then the Vin thing. Did she say he mentioned her name? Did she say he mentioned her name to avoid him saying he thought she was someone else? Did she say he mentioned her name? I don't know. I'm not sure. That's not ringing a bell for me. If it was something that was in the complaint, it's something that I would have pointed out in the real-time reading of it. I'm not sure. I mean, her name's kind of unique, Asta. So, oh, you're talking about that nothing gets by Asta. So she quoted two quotes in the complaint that when she was in the interview, there was something about if it didn't happen on video, then it didn't happen at all. That's what the interview manager told her. And then that Vin Diesel, after he did the thing that she's alleging he did, he like winked and was like, nothing gets past Asta, or no one. What is that line when like a girl's not easy or something? She's implying that it's a line that people say when a girl's not easy, but then someone actually gets to hit. There's a specific line. I know what it is. It's right there. It's not going to come to me, but I know what you're talking about. But yeah, she did quote these two specific quotes that were apparently said 10 years ago, like 13 years ago. Was this 2011, 2010? She inserted these two quotes that she remembered specifically, and both of them implied, you know, that what he did, he's guilty of it. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but I know exactly what it is, and it stood out to me when I read it as like she's trying to assert that, she's easy, but I got her. But yeah, if there is an update there, I will follow it. I am gonna get off of here. Thank you guys all for joining. Again, it'll be random when I pop in tomorrow, and hopefully I think Danny's gonna try to join if we can work out the times together. So that'll be really awesome to do the next cross-examination read. If you guys notice anything else, like inconsistencies, throw it in the comments or put it over on X, and we can keep compiling the inconsistencies up because I don't get how people can spend 5 minutes looking at this and not realize that Jonathan Majors was lied on and falsely accused. And you guys are welcome always. This is something I enjoy doing because if I see an inconsistency, I need to make it make sense. You guys all have a good night. Take care.